Let me just start off by saying good afternoon and welcome to our webinar. My name is Queena Brown and I am the content marketeer at Untouchables. And of course, you know the topic for today already, mental health for internationals and challenges and ways forward. Today we have our two guest speakers, Dirk Jan Frijling and Niki Antypa. She is the psychologist and Dirk Jan is the director at H4I, but they will give you a more in-detail description about themselves and what they do. One thing we would like to ask you is if you have any questions during this webinar, please use the question and answer option at the bottom of the screen. And we will be answering these questions at the end of the webinar. So Dirk and Niki, thank you for joining us and thank you for being here. And please give us some more information about yourself and let's get this ball rolling.
Thank you for inviting us. So yeah, I can start with an introduction of myself. Hi everyone, I'm Niki Antypa. I'm a psychologist at PEP International, which is located in Noordwijk. I'm also a professor in Leiden University. And I'm also an international in the Netherlands. I'm Greek. And I have lived outside of Greece for the past 15 years, 4 years in Italy and 11 years in the Netherlands. So I'm also personally very well aware of problems that come with living in a foreign country. So I hope this webinar will be useful for you and I'm looking forward to interact with you.
Okay, well, thank you, Niki. My name is Dirk Jan Frijling. I'm Director of Healthcare for Internationals, and Healthcare for Internationals is a non-profit organization that aims to have Dutch healthcare better meet the needs and expectations of internationals. We have members, which are healthcare providers that try to cater as best as possible for the needs of internationals. And one of our members is PEP International. In Noordwijk, but we also have a lot of GP practices across the Netherlands in the major cities. So it's great to have you here. Well, we've talked a little bit about ourselves. We can't see you, our audience. Normally you would be in a big hall and we could see your faces, but we'd like to know a little bit about you. So we're going to do a quick poll to know who you are and some of the things that are important for this session. So we're going to launch an online poll, and the first question is a very simple one. Can you let us know if you're international or if you are Dutch, and international being and not having Dutch nationality? So the poll is open. Okay. Well, I think, Kini, I can end polling now and we can show the results, share results. So, as you can see, we only have internationals. We were expecting to have a few Dutch employers who are also invited to this webinar, but well, good enough. It's nice to have you here. Then we'll move to the second question. Let me see, I guess I can do that. Okay, and well, I think this is going to be, there are 3 questions here. And let me just, hold on. Which is why, I mean, Untouchables being an employment agency, we were assuming that you're either employed or looking to be employed, or maybe you are an employer. So let's open this polling. Okay, as expected, not having Dutch people here, we don't have an employer, but we do have about 70% of you is looking for employment, and 30 is currently employed. So that's and for those who are looking for employment, we hope obviously that you will succeed in the near future through Undutchables or by any other means. And I'd like to move to the third and final question. And that's a bit about the topic that we are going to discuss today is issues you may have and feelings you may have had since arriving in the Netherlands, mental challenges and having feelings like feeling lonely, uprooted, homesick, anxious, depressed. And please answer for yourself to what extent you have experienced these feelings since you've been in the Netherlands, or maybe are still experiencing these feelings. Are you doing that all the time, frequently, sometimes, seldom, or never? So can you please share that with us? We still have some results coming in, but I guess we're now there. Let me share those with you. Well, we see that we have more than 1/3 of those present that say that they have these kind of feelings or have had these kind of feelings frequently or even all the time. And the majority, almost 40%, is having them sometimes. And about a quarter, 25%, are having them, never had them, or seldom had them, or seldom have them. Which is a bit in line with what we have found with earlier research that we have done under internationals, which was done prior to the COVID crisis. We did that 2 years ago, these results, and their results were even more shocking to us, at least, is that 50% of internationals was reporting to have had frequently or all the time these kind of feelings of feeling anxious or depressed or lonely. Well, from this small poll, we find that about 40% or close to, I think 37% is having these feelings, which we still consider to be quite a lot. And our research also showed that that about 13% of our audience in the poll we did 2 years ago, about 13% wasn't having these feelings at home. And 70% said that to their experience, these feelings were clearly a result of moving to the Netherlands and settling in a different country. So for us, these results as Healthcare for International said, well, this is quite important information. A lot of internationals are battling with these kind of feelings. They may overcome them, but they have them all the same. And that was for us also a start to start a program to have Dutch healthcare better meet also the mental health needs of internationals, but also to provide all kind of information and tools that will help internationals to cope with these feelings and to prevent them getting out of control, so to say. And before we go into all kind of things that can be done, we'd like to zoom in a little bit more on what these feelings are about and what brings them about. And here Niki will take over and will discuss with you the nature of the feelings that we have described. Niki, you can start sharing.
Yeah, I will share my screen. Can you see my screen? Okay. So yeah, I will start talking about some common mental health challenges that we face moving into this country. Actually, it has to do with changing country, not necessarily. This one, you always experience some sort of adjustment problem, or a lot of people at least. And this usually is the case for the first 6 months or a year, and yet then usually gets better. I can say from my experience, it does get better. But yeah, there are some things that are difficult in the beginning. And this is, for example, first, you might experience a culture shock, especially if you're coming from a very different culture. Just to give an example, I know, for example, when I was living in Italy, I used to go at the barrister to get a little coffee, and you would have a little chat with a barrister, and that would already be kind of a chat of your day and interacting with someone. And it would be about the weather or shopping or whatever the dolce that he made. And yeah, here, for example, you go, you get your coffee, you say, yeah, dank u wel, graag gedaan. And that's it, it's the end. Well, that's just a small example of, cultural differences between countries, and the list can go on. So it can take time to get adjusted to the way things work here and the way people interact here with each other. Then the next problem can be, of course, language barriers. And although we're very lucky to be in a country that, almost everybody speaks English, even old people speak English on the street, kids speak English. But there are problems with regard to the language, especially when it comes to bureaucracy, the healthcare system, for example, or the tax system. And these are stressful situations that you find in, especially when you come in, because you do have to arrange your SOFI number and your BSN, and also enroll to a GP, understand how the healthcare system works. So, kind of getting the hang of the language and, not be completely frightened by whatever is Dutch can take a bit of time. And of course, the more you get a bit familiar with it, it does get better. Another problem is, of course, that you have left your home. There is homesickness. And what I also found myself in, and I see it also in a lot of clients, is the idea of, how would things be if I would have stayed home? Would things have been different? Did I make a wrong choice to be here? And this sort of vacillation between being here and what would have happened if I had stayed there, and this kind of the mind going back and forth all the time can be very tiring. And of course, there's probably feelings also of homesickness, of missing people close to you, your family, your friends, and all this safety net that is probably back home. Then, of course, there is the stress of moving or finding a home, which is not so easy in the Netherlands, especially in the big cities like Amsterdam, Leiden, The Hague, Utrecht, especially if you want to live in the city, can be very expensive. So there is a lot of stress dealing with that and arranging that. And yeah, hopefully after that phase is over, it gets better in a more kind of stable situation of also understanding how the house system works in the Netherlands. But it is, kind of an objectively stressful period when you're moving. Another issue might be that you might have already been having trouble with, for example, anxiety issues in the past. And then these, when of course you're stressed in a new environment, might get aggravated and might become worse. This kind of like a multiplication, you know, stress by stress equals double stress. And that, of course, doesn't make life any easier. Another point is kind of a sense of a loss of identity in a new country, because maybe in your previous country you were a student or you had another job, and now you want to make a new start. So it's a sense of like, if I don't do anything, I'm not anything. And that can be a very daunting sense, I think. If kind of feeling of losing yourself if you're not doing something and if you're not functional in some way. So this is not, of course, the case, because you are yourself with everything that entails, and you know, having a job is only a part of life and an important part. But also it's just the realization that we identify ourselves with what we do and putting that in kind of a greater frame of reference. Now, so these were examples of just more general adjustment problems that usually occur in the first year after you're here, or can also endure for more years. I can say that, for example, my adjustment to the weather after 15 years is still not that great. Hailing in April, I can still react to it. But now I want to focus a bit more on more specific and daily experiences that we're having as a result of stress and a result of problems in our lives, especially as internationals. So a common feeling that can come and go is sadness, of course. As I said, maybe sadness of not being near loved ones, or you've lost interest in doing new activities or really exploring things. That can make day-to-day life more difficult. And it can also be the case that, you had some interests in the past in your home country, but now you don't really feel you want to do them anymore. Because it does require a lot of courage and a lot of activation to do and seek out things and figure them out. And it requires a lot of energy to do it in a new country. You might also experience appetite problems. So you might be eating too much or too little, or not eating healthy enough. Just eating whatever is there, or a sense of not taking care of yourself, health-wise and food-wise. Also getting adjusted to the different tastes here. So, the Dutch cuisine is quite specific. It's rather an international cuisine. You have Chinese, Thai, Indonesian, a lot more options, Italian, French, name it whatsoever. So it's also kind of getting acquainted with the whole cuisine here. You might be experiencing sleep problems, so sleeping too much or too little, or having night awakenings, or waking up too early in the morning, And of course, this can be a lot related to your thinking. If you're too stressed, for example. You might have fatigue or low energy, being tired all the time, even if you haven't done much during the day. Problems like difficulty concentrating or procrastination, putting off things. I know, for example, for those of you still applying for a job, it requires probably a lot of self-diligence and, sticking to a schedule and for sending CVs, etc. And, if this is actually your job to send CVs, but you can easily also postpone it. And that can also be quite overwhelming. Which brings me to the next one, that, if you don't do all the things you want to do, you obtain a sense of worthlessness, right? And a sense of, I'm not doing things good enough. I'm not good enough. And this comes also oftentimes with guilt, that I'm not doing my best, I should have done better, and a lot of guilty feelings. And when you're in a very dark place, it can even lead up to suicidal thoughts of, what is my role in this life? Is it worth living like this? What's the point in all of this? So really dark thoughts can also arise out of these difficult situations. So this is, as you might imagine, this can lead to a kind of a more full-blown episode of a depression, or it can be more fleeting. You might experience sadness, or you might have these problems of sleeplessness going up and down, but if it's not really constant or affecting your functioning, then you are able to manage it somehow. So you're not probably suffering from a very full-blown depression. Now I want to move on to the next topic that has to do more with experiences of anxiety, which are also very common. Things like tension that you might be feeling because of things not going the way you want them, or you have fear about the future. You might be feeling overwhelmed of all the things that have to be done, kind of lists flying through your head, and being worried about different topics, experiencing chest pain or difficulty breathing as a result of the stress and the tension. As I said, worry about several things at the same time, and worry at different times of the day about it. Muscle tension, that you might feel tensed, or muscle ache sometimes because of the anxiety. You might also experience restlessness, so kind of a sense of, I don't know what to do, but at the same time not doing anything. And this can also happen often with difficulty breathing, or kind of a heaviness coming on the chest. And sleep and appetite problems are also, of course, related to anxiety. You might be not able to fall asleep at night if you're too anxious and you have a lot of worries. That's very frequent for people with anxiety. And again, these problems might come up also in more social situations. So if you encounter someone, you might experience these feelings, or they could be more specific to just, for example, the work environment or the issue of having to find a job, or it could be across several issues. And again, part of this is of course normal, and it's also normal to experience anxiety when you come to a new country. And it's also normal to experience it when you're looking for a job and to see if that will work out and when. And you're somehow coping with it. So we're going to be discussing about coping mechanisms later. But if you feel this is like too much or it's taking over, then you realize, well, that's the time maybe that I need to ask for help. Okay. Then, yeah, the next thing is, of course, that on top of the anxiety and the depression problems and all the adjustment problems comes Corona. So if you have also recently moved here within the last year, probably these symptoms have been aggravated. It has made your situation worse. It's more difficult to meet other people, more difficult to be social, more difficult to do activities. So actually with Corona, the way I see it is that each one of us has kind of some vulnerabilities inside. We all do, we are all imperfect. And with Corona, these vulnerabilities become more intense because of the restraints that happen. And it is a matter of time to find our ways out and our coping mechanisms and, how to learn to live with the situation right now. So these ways out are important, and that's the next step that we want to discuss with you and think together with you.
Okay, can you move to the next slide, Niki? Then,
Yeah.
yeah.
So then that's time.
So, given the fact that in 75% of you in our audience has had or still having these type of feelings as we speak, you may also have devised some strategies, some mechanisms to cope with these feelings. And we're going to discuss those later on. But first, we'd like to, use your experience and your ideas of coping with these kind of feelings. What do you do to make them manageable and to meet those challenges? So the invitation now is to through the chat. Can you please, in simple words, indicate things that you do or that you know others in your environment are doing to cope with these kind of challenges? So not very long sentences, just a few words that we will harvest and then feedback and hopefully a nice word cloud that gives an impression of what you have been doing or know that others are doing to cope with these feelings. So use the chat to enter those ideas about coping strategies.
Dirk, I have someone that raised their hands and maybe they had a question, and I don't know if we can allow them to talk or ask them to ask the question via the Q&A chat. I know we mentioned that in the beginning, so what would be best right now?
Well, I would suggest through the Q&A chat, unless it's something that they can't follow us or that they can't understand us, then it's a technical issue. So.
Yes. Ileana, so can you please, if you have a question, can you ask your question via the Q&A option at the bottom of the screen, and we will get back to you. Thank you.
Okay, I already see quite some ideas coming in through the chat, so let's take another 30 seconds. Give us your ideas, your experience, what you do to cope with these mental challenges.
Nice ones.
Yeah. Very good. Okay, maybe it's good now, Niki, to share a video about coping, especially in times of COVID. You want to introduce that and start the video?
Yeah. So I would like to show you a video now that was developed by one of the founders of acceptance and commitment therapy, which is one of the therapies for mental health problems. And they have made a video about coping strategies, especially during COVID. So I'll just start it.
When we face a crisis of any sort, fear and anxiety are inevitable. They are normal, natural responses to any challenging situation infused with danger and uncertainty. Face COVID is a set of practical steps for dealing with such situations. F is for focus on what's in your control. You can't control what happens in the future. You can't control coronavirus itself or the world economy or what other people do, and you can't magically control your thoughts and feelings. Fear, anxiety, and worry are inevitable. But you can control what you do here and now. So let's focus on that. A is for acknowledge your thoughts and feelings. Silently and kindly acknowledge whatever is showing up inside you. Thoughts, feelings, emotions, memories, sensations, urges. With curiosity, notice what's going on in your inner world. You might say to yourself, I am noticing feelings of anxiety, or I'm having thoughts about getting sick, or I'm having feelings of loneliness. And as you continue acknowledging your thoughts and feelings, bring in the next step, which is C, come back into your body. Find your own way of connecting with your physical body. For example, you might try slowly pressing your feet hard into the floor, or slowly pressing your fingertips together, slowly stretching your arms or your neck, or shrugging your shoulders, or slowly breathing. And as you acknowledge your thoughts and feelings and come back into your body, you then move to E, which is for engage in what you're doing. Get a sense of where you are here and now and refocus your attention on the activity at hand. Notice 5 things you can see, 5 things you can hear. Notice what you can touch and taste and smell. Notice what you are doing and give your full attention to that activity. And then C is for committed action. This means effective action guided by your core values. Action you take because it's important to you, even if it brings up difficult thoughts and feelings. Of course, this includes following official guidelines on what to do during this crisis. But in addition, ask yourself regularly, what can I do right now, no matter how small it may be, that improves life for myself or others I live with or people in my community? And whatever the answer is, do it and engage in it fully. O is for opening up. This means making room for difficult feelings and being kind to yourself. As this crisis unfolds, we'll all feel fear, anxiety, anger, sadness, guilt, loneliness, and so on. We can't stop these painful feelings from arising, but we can open up and make room for them. Acknowledge they are normal, allow them to be there even though they hurt, and treat ourselves kindly. Consider what are kind words you can say to yourself and kind things you can do for yourself to help you cope with this suffering. V is for values. Committed action should be guided by your core values. What do you want to stand for in the face of this crisis? What sort of person do you want to be as you go through this? How do you want to treat yourself and others? Your values might include love, respect, humor, patience, courage, honesty, caring, openness, kindness, compassion, or numerous others. Look for ways to sprinkle your values into your day and let them guide and motivate your actions. I is for identify resources. Identify resources for help, assistance, support, and advice. This includes friends, family, neighbors, health professionals, and emergency services. Make sure you know the emergency helpline phone numbers, including those for psychological help if required. D is for disinfect and distance. Remember to disinfect regularly and practice physical distancing for the greater good of your community. Please run through the steps of face COVID as often as you can for the benefit of yourself, your loved ones, and all the people in your community.
Okay.
Okay. I will. I have looked at. Yeah. If you stop sharing, then I will share the results of the small idea gathering that we did, and you should see now what basically what came out of all the suggestions that were flowing in. Well, you see, exercising and walking is clearly a coping strategy that is applied a lot. Well, keeping focus is taking time with friends, and if you look in the smaller words, all kind of sports come up. Mindfulness, somebody got a dog, or other pets also seem to help get into culture. Being busy, spend time with friends, with colleagues. Well, there's a lot to be learned in this very short time, picking the brains of our audience. We'd like to go a little bit more into these coping strategies and mechanisms and things that can be done. So move to the next sheet. And well, Niki, you want to say a little bit more about those tools?
Yeah. So yeah, excellent input, everyone. I'm happy to see that you have already a big coping tool bag. So just to add a few things, I would say, yeah, at this point in time, also considering Corona, it's important to set realistic expectations for ourselves and also focus on what is under our control. So trying our best from our side, and realizing also that there's also a big part that is outside of our control. That has to do, for example, with government regulations. That has to do whether employers are really recruiting right now. So keeping that perspective in mind, I think is important, of what is under your control and not. Of course, social relations and social contact is important. You already mentioned that. So keeping in touch in some way or another, either through walks or just with video calls, etc. Just, being really in touch with someone can really make a difference. Creating a home can be difficult, especially if you are having financial problems. But I would say also focus on creating a home with really like minimum things. For example, doing something nice for yourself, like buying your favorite tea or buying a nice candle, and just creating a really homey atmosphere for you. Because it's, in these difficult times, I think, especially when everything is closed or used to be closed, even little steps can make a difference. Reestablishing your identity, give it time. give it also perspective, in the sense that it takes a while, also especially if you're looking for a job, to have that part of your identity cover, and remember that, you know, the job is not the whole of your identity. So again, put this in perspective. A worry diary, and I saw also, I think, in the feedback on the coping situations, you had some people wrote journaling or writing a diary. Well, we psychologists advise is to have a worry diary where you write down your worries at a specific time of the day, ideally not before you go to sleep, because then it can really activate you, but maybe in the afternoon. So that you really write things down. And there is something therapeutic about writing things down on paper. And if you dedicate this time for worry, really worrying about your problems, they're less likely to come back at a later time in the day. And yeah, also as the video showed, it's important to just be here and now, be mindful. You also mentioned mindfulness in your coping tools before, or meditation, that came quite strongly out. So I think a lot of you are aware that, you know, being right here and right now and appreciating the moment is very important, instead of kind of dreading the past or being worried about the future. And yeah, the final thing is perhaps less obvious than the rest, but I would like to invite you to kind of see the difference maybe in your lives between suppressing thoughts or feelings, versus allowing them and confronting them. Sometimes they're very difficult, and giving yourself some comfort for your suffering and for the difficult feelings that are coming up sometimes. And that brings me to an exercise I would like to do with you. The exercise is called RAIN, and this is a mindfulness self-compassion exercise, and that is maybe a technical term. So what it means is about being present with the emotions that you have at a certain point in time, especially in difficult situations, and doing something to follow the needs of these emotions, because emotions usually point towards needs. So I would like to do this exercise right now with you. I don't know, Jan Dirk, if you want to close the share screen or just leave the thing, I don't mind. So, I would like to ask everyone to kind of sit in a comfortable position, preferably putting the feet on the ground and lowering the shoulders, and taking a deep breath in and a slow out breath. See if you just need another deep breath, and you can do the same. Slow in breath and slow out breath. And just return to your regular breathing. Now I'd like to ask you to bring inside with your attention a little suffering, something that is bothering you, something difficult. I wouldn't bring in any traumatic experience right now because it wouldn't serve this exercise. But some difficulty in your life can be about finding a job, can be in relation to someone, can be just anxiety or fear, sadness. Just bring in the situation live to your mind's eye, see what's happening, what's going on. And once you've done that, try to recognize what the predominant feeling is. What is the feeling there? Is it fear? Is it shame? Sadness? And it helps to name it, whisper it to yourself. Say, this is whatever it is. And then see if you can allow it to be there. Ask yourselves, can I let this be? Can I let this emotion just be? Can I create some space for it? And as you're creating space for it, try to investigate what's the worst part of it. What makes it so difficult? What is it? What is the pain about? And as you see the pain, see also how does it feel in your body? Where does it feel in your body? Maybe it's in your chest or your shoulders. Try to put your hand there on your body, that the emotion is resting. And see if you can give it a tender touch. You might also hold yourself, if that makes it easier. Just make contact. And as you make contact, you can ask, how can I be with you right now? What do you need? Do you need comfort? Maybe some words of care? Something like, it's okay. I see you. It's okay. Or trust yourself. It's going to be okay. Just come up with your own words of comfort. And after whispering the words of comfort, that it's okay, you can slowly return in your greater presence. A presence that is just greater than the emotion. the presence of being here right now. And seeing how that feels to be greater. And how that can compare to where you started from. And whenever you're ready, you can slowly, slowly bring your attention from inward to outward, to the sounds around you, to this room, to us. Just take your time.
Okay, Niki, thank you very much. I hate to interrupt this moment of silence and contemplation, but we're going to summarize what we have discussed so far and give some final tips, and then move into any questions you may have. So if you have any questions, please use the Q&A function to send them to us. Summarizing, well, one important message, and I hope you've learned it now also through the poll. If you have these feelings, if you don't feel okay, please know you're not alone. And it's okay to be not okay. 75% of the people who are in this virtual room is having or has had these kind of feelings. And that's also true in the world outside with the internationals living and expats living in the Netherlands. We discussed a number of coping strategies. You shared some of yours. Social relations is clearly very important, and there are all ways of doing that. You may have heard of meetup.com. There are a lot of activities there. Some of them are also online. And through Facebook groups, you can find expats from the same nationality or who are share the same interests. And again, there may be a lot of them who are in those groups that share the same kind of feelings you have. So don't be ashamed to bring it up in the discussion. Another thing we want to point out too is there are a lot of online tools and apps that can help you on your own to investigate your anxiety, to take steps to reduce stress, to reduce loneliness. A lot of them are free of charge. Some are paid programs. There's a link page with some links to tools that you could have a look at. Now, there are no employers there, but if there were, we were going to tell them it's important also for employers to be aware of the kind of feelings their international employees may have and to provide support to them. And we're going to make a document and information for employers what they can do to make life easier for internationals that have joined them. Now, so far we have discussed what you can do yourself, coping strategies like walking or taking a dog or whatever, doing the exercises like Niki was guiding us through. But at some point in time, you may need professional help. If those steps can't prevent to get at this point, you need to get access to professional help. And the way to do that in the Netherlands, the best way to do that is through your general practitioner, your huisarts, your GP. A GP practice has mental health specialists. They can do diagnosis, they can offer short treatment programs, which are fully covered by Dutch health insurance. They can also refer to more specialist care like a psychologist or a psychiatrist. You can go and visit psychologists without a referral of your huisarts, but you may have to check with your health insurance if it's then fully covered. Now, clearly, I mean, anyone would like to have some psychologist or mental health professional that understand the language that you are speaking or has a similar cultural background as you are having. They are there, not in abundance, but like in PEP International, they have people with international background like Niki and other nationalities that are available and can counsel in other languages like Turkish or Greek or German or English and so on. Be aware, however, that not all psychologists, I'm not talking about PEP, but there are a lot of good psychologists that are English speaking, but not all of them will be covered by Dutch health insurance because they're not registered, and they're not registered by the simple fact that they don't speak Dutch in many cases, which is, well, kind of strange, of course, but that's how it works in the Netherlands. But they are there. And we also provide a link page to groups and sites where you will be able to find those. And as Healthcare for Internationals, we're working to build a more elaborate database of all kinds of support that you can call on. And we hope to have that live later this year. I'm not going to go in all these links here. You can see them. I will give you a link where you can download the presentation. Here are the links to mental health care providers, just a selection of those. And here are the other links, like to the video you have watched. And note down this link here, which is the link to the download of this very presentation at h4i.nl/downloads. And there you'll find the presentation. And you can make a download and then use all the links. And if there are any questions, then you can send a mail to info@h4i.nl. We have run a bit out of time, but let me just check what questions there are. I don't know, Niki, if you've looked at the question, is it something that you would like to answer?
Yeah, the first one is where or who can we contact to have therapy sessions, as Niki just presented? Well, you also provided a list. I can just say for PEP International that we are one of the few that has contracts with health insurances. And we have the languages also that Dirk Jan mentioned before. And we work a lot with expats, and there are also very short waiting lists. We really work hard for that.
Okay, and I saw another attendee said that they, if I read it well, that he or she didn't feel understood by the Dutch therapist, and said, I want to make a formal complaint. But a bit anxious to do that. Well, just formally, I mean, everyone can make a complaint. And on our website, you can find basically what is the way to do that. However, I think it's better. I mean, at the same time, you should also look at where you can find the help, that somebody who can help you. So maybe the links we provided will help you to find a therapist that does understand you. Okay, any other questions? Okay, if any questions do come up later on, looking at the downloads, and I saw that in the chat also the download link has been shared with you. Don't hesitate to send a mail to info@h4i.nl. We, Healthcare for Internationals, with our partners like PEP, will try to answer that to the best of our ability. If there are no other things coming in, we'd like to really thank you for your attention. I hope it was useful to you. And maybe, Kini, you would like to, let's say, close the meeting on behalf of Untouchables. And thank you for hosting this session, Kini.
Hi, Dirk. Thank you. Thank you very much. And Niki as well. It was a very informative session, and especially that little exercise moment of self-reflection. I think we all can use a bit of that in our busy lives. So thank you very much for the presentation, and of course everyone else for joining us during this webinar. If you have any questions as well regarding recruitment, vacancies, etc., please don't hesitate to contact us. You can find our contact information on our website, www.untouchables.nl. We have a contact page, and you can contact one of our offices for more information about anything related to recruitment. So again, thank you very much, and we hope to see you all very soon again.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you all.
Bye-bye.
Take good care.